If tomorrow all things are gone, I worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend us till today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Hey, good evening. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we got some pretty cool guests. Frankie and Paul are not on tonight. Frankie's amongst the missing, and Paul is on vacation doing some sport fishing. So hopefully we have some good videos for that. So tonight we got Mr. Todd Waldron, who is the Northeast Conservation, as Director of Conservation for the Ruffed Grouse and Woodcock Society. And we got Giuseppe Papadrea, who's known as the Grouse Father, who is we follow each other on Instagram, and he put some pretty awesome pictures up of grouse hunting, which I find is pretty fascinating. I didn't know you could hunt them with dogs until I really got deep into his page, on what they do with some grouse hunting and stuff like that. So before we get going, I just want to get some things out of the way. We want to thank some of our sponsors. Matthews Custom Calls. That's the one of our cousins who makes all of our duck calls, turkey calls. He makes deer grunt calls, predator calls. So Matthew, when we had nobody believed in us. So thank you, Matthew. Foul Cup Coffee Company is my two sons have a coffee company, so they sponsored Dad and Uncle Lou. Blackhound Optics, when we had nobody, Blackhound stepped up to the plate. So we're very grateful to them.
They have very good products.
Very good products, yeah. So and very good to our organizations. We do a lot of volunteer work, so they're always quick to give us a scope or something like that to donate for a raffle and stuff like that. So we're very grateful to them, and we want to thank them. So, but we're going to get into some things here, and I'm going to turn it over to Lou. Lou had some questions, I guess, for both you gentlemen with regards to some grouse. I guess
right out of the box.
Right out of the box in our area.
Kill me right out of the box. All right, so I went on some. What am I on here? Go to the top. RGSAWS. Anybody know what that is?
That's the Ruffed Grouse. I'm not gonna.
Society and American Woodcock Society. Okay, so it gives you a lot of interesting facts about where to hunt, what type of dogs they felt were best, what type of environment, what type of shotguns. They said, and it's very vague because it said it depends the dogs on likes and dislikes. Most pointing dogs were good. I personally have grouse hunted a couple of times in the Hancock area on a friend's property, and I was lucky. And believe it or not, with a single shot 410. So, and I had one of them mounted, believe it or not. I gave it to my brother-in-law, and it lasted about 20 years before one of his dogs ate it. So that's an interesting, my grouse experience facts. But you guys are well-versed in it, habitat-wise, hunting-wise. So if you want to introduce yourselves to everybody and speak a little bit about habitat, why grouse hunting, anybody want to take over on that?
Well, Lou, thanks a million for having me on the podcast tonight. I'm always happy and excited.
It's our pleasure
to talk about grouse and grouse conservation and dogs and grouse hunting. So yeah, Ruffed Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society in our 61st year now. And we are a national nonprofit wildlife conservation group. And what we do is we connect the dots between sustainable forestry and the habitat and the thickets that grouse need to thrive and the conservation world. So you got it right. We were talking about habitat earlier, and that's what we do. We're a habitat-driven, mission-driven organization. We have absolutely amazing members and chapter leaders like Giuseppe. I'll let you speak on some of the stuff that you're doing from your chapters, Giuseppe, but it is a pleasure working for RGS and AWS, and I'm glad to talk about projects we're doing here in New York. I've been there for about a year. Prior to that, I've worked 26 years in forest conservation here in the Northeast. And grouse are such cool birds. I mean, you go out in the woods, you hear them drumming, you hear that tractor sound. You're out there with dogs. There's all sorts of different kinds of dogs you can hunt with and people. And it just fires me up just thinking about it. That's what I love about it. So, Giuseppe, lay some ground for what you like.
Hey, thanks, Todd. And always a pleasure talking to you guys. And thanks for having me, by the way. Todd hit some very important things. Habitat is crucial to this. So if we want to protect the future, my kids, your kids, grandkids, to continue on with it, we got to be cognizant of what's going on, with our habitat, with our public lands. It's not just like, hey, I have a friend that has property, we need to manage it. His property is his property. This public property that we all have to chip in, that we all utilize, that, being a part of RGS, that's a great step in involving yourself in protecting the future. Mike, I know that, you're very, hard with the Boy Scouts and the Scouts and itself, and you do a lot of functions for that. And, that's preserving, a long, long history in something. And it's similar to that. So, we all have our passions. We all like our specific niches in hunting, and it excites me. And I know it excites Todd. Very, very passionate about, what we do, but it makes us more excited to hear somebody that doesn't really know much. Even you guys, you said you did it a few times. I talked to Mike a little bit about, his interest.
I think he's thinking Mike is Andrew. Andrew is Andrew.
Andrew.
You keep saying Mike.
Mike is the producer, Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
I was going to say, who was he saying Mike?
Mike will talk to you.
I'll talk to you.
So, there's a lot of, interest in getting into it. Just people don't know enough about it. So grouse, by conversation, is that one bird that when I'm walking to my deer stand that I'd scare. That's what grouse is to a lot of guys. I heard that a million times.
100%. 100%.
So with that, okay, so how do I hunt the thing? Well, there's a number of ways to hunt anything. How do you hunt a deer? There's a million ways. You hunt on a tree stand, you stalk them, whatever it is. But ultimately, knowing the geography, knowing the habits, knowing the animal is the first thing. It's our responsibility to know the game that we hunt. An important tool, an important resource is always going to be RGS when it comes to knowing what a grouse is. There's a lot of pertinent information. Todd will definitely get into some of the projects that, we're involved with, migration, woodcock migration. Woodcock, for those who don't know what a woodcock is a migratory bird, right? It's just about the size of a quail, has a beak about the size of a quail, and they burrow in the ground and eat earthworms. Like 99% of their diet, or 100%, is earthworm. So in the fall, they head south, just like a lot of birds that we know head south. So what RGS has done was get some pretty expensive contraptions, let's just call them, to put them on these. They trap these birds. They put these antennas on these birds, and they monitor the flights. So how is that important to us? Well, it is important so we know how far are the birds going? When are they going? When are they coming back? I got buddies that are in Louisiana and Eastern Texas. A lot of these birds fly down there, and they winter in those areas. There are thousands of birds there. So it's a pretty good indicator for us, being guys that we need to spend time. We need to know when they're coming and where they're going.
Gotcha.
So, RGS is great for that. Teaching people about, vegetation and different times of the day, moisture, hunting in dry, arid areas. Woodcock need water. I mean, all animals do, but especially woodcock are usually found in mucky, moisture-ridden places that the ground's still soft enough for them to burrow for worms. So, like little nuggets of information like that, it's a reliable source. And outside of RGS, AWS, you got to put your feet on the ground. You got to go out and do it. So if you don't know how to do it, you got to reach out to a guy like me. That my door is always open for anybody who wants to learn. I've invited people from all over the country. A lot of people attest to that. But the caveat is this. It's like a good trout hole. It's kind of a honey hole. It's kind of like a secret place. You kind of, by the anatomy of what a grouse hunter is, you kind of have to trust the guy that he's not going to give up your spot, show up at your spot when you're not there.
Yeah, that's a biggie. That's a biggie.
It's a huge thing. So when you're talking about, a guy reaching out to you, I had a guy reach out to me from West Virginia. The guy was tattooed up to his neck, tattooed to his knuckles. Most guys would have looked at a guy like that and said, "I don't want him to come to my covers." What is judging a book by its cover? The guy was a cup of sugar. I mean, sweetheart, great guy. I drew him a PowerPoint of a bunch of different types of transitions in the forest between like heavy timbers going into, and those are spots that are conducive to hold grouse in transitional areas where old growth meets new growth, and there's some whips, and there's some undergrowth, and there's different types of vegetation, which Todd will go over, like multiflora, witch hazel, catkins, different types of things that they eat. That's their diet. You being a knowledgeable, responsible conservationist and hunter should know, what does a grouse eat? Okay, well, you know what a deer eats. You know if he's eating corn, you might go around a cornfield in a bottleneck or whatever. Those are the things you got to put together, and you can only do that by experiencing and seeing it. So he came up. Well, I gave him this thing, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "Where are you hunting?" He said, "West Virginia. There's birds here, but I don't know how to find them, and they're not as many." A Pennsylvania guy is where he's from, Pennsylvania. So they have some birds there. I said, "Mike, get in your car this week, whatever weekend it was, and get up here." We ended up, I met him up for the weekend, and we chased birds. The guy fell in love with it. Now the guy's so proud to see him, hunting on his own with his German short hair. He's, they're finding woodcock all over the place. He comes up to my grouse camp up in Vermont. He tattooed my sleeve. I mean, how much better than that can it get? You can't get that.
That's good.
No.
So
That's how relationships are born.
exactly. So it's kind of like, we are guys that are experienced, kind of have to steward, role model, mentor, however you want to call it, whatever label you want to do, just like the scouts, a pack master, whatever, show somebody how to whittle something, how to tie a certain knot, whatever it is. That's what we have to do. You have to, it doesn't matter if the guy's 50 years old. It's his first time going. What does he know? You got to show him. That's it.
No, well said.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, you remember Dante?
Yeah.
I remember Dante telling me I don't know if it's early afternoons. Maybe I'm mistaken, but that's what I want to ask you guys. Don't they eat pebbles and try to grind their food in a sack? Is that a true thing? So yes. He would tell me he'd walk the roads at a certain time of the day, and the birds would be pecking for pebbles to try to put them in their pouch.
Yeah. They're in the morning. They're roadside. Todd, what they do those stones go in their crops and help them digest and break down some of the foods.
Then they be thrown back out after they're done. I'm assuming, right?
How do they get rid of them anyway? I never even knew that, Todd.
Yeah, I don't know how they probably regurgitate the stones and crops, but just like a lot of other bird species too, they're using that crop and they're using the stone to, yeah, just like you said, to masticate and chew up that food. And that's a really good tip too. Like Giuseppe was talking about, like knowing what grouse eat or knowing what deer eat or ducks or whatever. But like looking at the crop materials can give you a really good heads up. The crop is something in the digestive tract in the front of the bird, and like looking at that material can create a lot of insight into what those birds are doing at that particular time, because those feeding patterns, just like a lot of other wildlife and birds, they're going to shift through the season, right? So what grouse are doing on the front end of the season in early October when it's warm, maybe they're going to be in some lower moist areas, and maybe they're going to be feeding on a variety of foods still, with berries and with greens and clovers and stuff like that. And then by the time winter comes, they're going to be moving into like aspen budding, mature aspen budding, and that's like a really high source of their diet percentage and their intake. So just a quick tip, looking at that crop can just paint a big picture on what those
So that's a
birds are
pretty
doing.
good point, I'm assuming, then, to watch that. Okay.
Mhm.
Next question I would like to ask you, gentlemen, is like I said, I'm throwing these things out there. I'm not versed on this, so I'm like, from what I read and from experiences, the drumming is a mating thing.
It is a mating thing, and Giuseppe can step in if I missed anything. But the males drum, and it's that classic. If you've been in the woods and you're maybe people listening here, maybe they hunt turkeys or maybe they're foraging out in the woods, and they hear that tractor starting sound, that that poop 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 poop, so that's like a drumming formation. And what it's doing is the male finds a drumming log. So like there's very specific habitat. Like he's looking for really like a little bit of an opening where he can see maybe 50, 60 yards, but enough cover, like broom handle size cover, to give him safety from like hawk predation, say, or owl predation. And so they get up on this log that's about a foot off the ground, and that's their mating ritual. That's their dating card, right? That's what they're doing. So they're attracting females. A male grouse's range isn't that big, like he'll stay in that drumming area through mating season in spring. And I mean, his core area might be 5 acres, and he might be using a 20-acre kind of zone around that, but really specific habitat requirements. And that's where we come into like trying to make sure that those habitat requirements are met on landscape levels.
One of the grouse, now there's sharp tail, there's rough, there's spruce grouse. I read a little bit about this. One of them drums, you could hear it from 2 miles away. It said on one of these websites. Is that true?
That's a good question. 2 miles is a long way.
It is.
And I would say that it depends. What I found, maybe this, like turkey hunters can relate to this. You know how like whether there's leaves on the trees or not can muffle sound in the woods. So early in the season, like early May, before there's foliage, sound carries a lot farther, right? Like if you're into turkey hunting and you hear gobbling,
Yeah.
it could be farther away than you think. And then as the leaves come out, they're probably closer. They're probably a few hundred yards. And I would say it's pretty similar with grouse too. But I've heard grouse a long ways away. Like they always tend to be like farther than I think sometimes. And then when they're, other times they're closer than you think. And that's one of the things I love about those birds is they're so unpredictable.
Yeah, we have a clip of that, Andrew and Lou.
Yeah, I sent Mike a YouTube video. Mike, if you want to drop it.
Want me to put that up real quick?
Sure, put it up real quick. This way we can hear it.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's pretty
What
cool.
I think they meant was the hens can hear it from 2 miles away. Because I know
Right.
we ain't hearing that from 2 miles away.
It's actually also a competitive thing. It's a territorial thing as well. So it's letting any males within that area know that he's the big drummer.
Gotcha.
So it for guys that do this 365 in some form or another, whether they're running dogs or look, for a lot of us that have dogs, and I guess we're gonna get into that at some point here, but there's also another part to, you want to consistently exercise your dog. Well, you also don't want to impede nesting season. You don't want to impede, running a dog in an area where it's heavily, in the spring where it's heavily being drummed, because you don't want to scare off that male. You don't want to move him off his throne. That's a throne for them. They don't really move a lot, just like what Todd was just talking about. You can find a pile of droppings right underneath that log. I mean, a pile. They don't move a lot.
There's no regulations that you can't run the dogs a certain time of the year. I know even for rabbit hunters, you can't run them between a certain time when they're mating or nursing or whatever.
There is, but that's all at the state level rather than there's not a national thing that says it. But
Okay.
listen, whether or not it's on paper, or whether it's at Capitol Hill, or whether it's at your front doorstep, you got to be conscious of that yourself.
Well, that was my next thing I was going to say. You have to be a sportsman, and you have to be sportsman-minded to know that,
Right. I mean, listen, I want to run my dog all the time. So what? I go find a field out east, at least here, because we're on the island. You go out to Grumman's. Grumman's, you got thousands of acres. Not a lot of ticks on some fields there. It must have been all the
Chemicals.
the chemicals they must have dropped on that grass when they used to have the planes there. Whatever it is, there's not a lot of ticks, so it's a great place to run them. So what? You run them there. Let them exercise. Why am I going to go to my spots upstate? And I go upstate.
makes sense.
Why am I going to go to my spots, ruin the chance of a good hatch, ruin the chance of a male meeting a female by impeding his territory, running my dog there? It's selfish. Guys do it. Don't get me wrong. We all know guys. Todd, I'm sure you know a ton of guys that do it too. That do it. I can't say that I haven't been guilty at some point of doing it. When I was younger, I might have you know what? It's Easter. I got some family. I want to show them my dog. Let's just go. Listen. We all do stupid things at different points of our lives, but as a responsible, again, steward, and I use that, steward of that particular sport, it's your responsibility to know a lot of things. It's your responsibility to do things by the book. You catch yourself in some hairy situations, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? It is what it is. You try to be as clean as possible. Try to be as respectful to landowners. If you're hunting on private property, you're not leaving, wrappers and tree stands and stuff like that. Where if you're deer hunting, you don't ruin somebody else's chance. The same thing with birds. If I'm hunting a public piece and a guy's just coming out of there and he's like, I didn't see a bird, chances are he might not have seen one, but on his way back, he might have scooted one back. So don't think that your hunt's ruined. It's like, my father, when we were kids, my uncle used to go upstate, and they used to go by Walton. They used to go by all those areas. And, those guys didn't have a piece of property. So, son of a bitch. I see that guy, he's a park there. No, you're able to go over there, whatever. Just when they saw a car parked there, they're never going to hunt there forever. They scared all the deer away. Again, what did they know? There was no deer in Italy. They didn't know. It's, and I use this loosely. I don't call my family ignorant, but it's an ignorance of sorts because they didn't know. Yeah. It's like they didn't know that, you know what? Stay put. Somebody else is going to be walking, and somebody else is going to push a deer your way. It's the same thing with birds. Birds circular. Guy will move off of one hill. He might push 6 birds on his way down, not knowing that he pushed a ton of birds out from one hillside to another hillside. A same spot you walked in on the way back. Now all of a sudden you're putting 3 birds up. So, and that just triggered another thought. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, guys, but we are in different territories of this country, there's different levels of what birds are. Okay, in terms of like activity, how many birds you see a day, whatever it is. Okay, so if you're pheasant hunting, you're usually counting the birds that are on your tailgate, the ones you shot at the end of the day. If you're quail hunting, usually it's birds you see on your tailgate. That's your success rate. Grouse hunters and woodcock hunters are completely different animals. Why? We count flushes. We don't count dead birds. Why? Because they're harder birds to shoot.
Oh, they're smaller too. Fast. They're fast and small.
I had 18 flushes today. That's a successful day. And guys are like, and guys from other areas don't understand that. And on social media a lot, I get a lot of comments like that. Like, somebody from down south. I never understood how y'all count birds. We count quail on the tailgate. Hey, yeah, but y'all count flushes. That same guy, and I have it in my early part of my feed. That same guy ended up getting relocated for work. It's up to Michigan or Wisconsin, somewhere in the Midwestern states where there's a ton of birds. He took a picture of a cover. He goes, I never understood why you guys counted flushes until I moved here. What's the significance? Because he wasn't filling a tailgate with birds. They're much harder bird. They fly. They're masters of their environment. Right, Todd? You would agree with it? They're masters of their environment. It's not that they're any faster or slower or more cunning or whatever. It's their method of being evasive that makes them a hard quarry to shoot. It's how they manipulate the woods that they're flying through. It makes it a hard shot. And you have to be a good bird shot. You have to be especially on woodcock. If they're in full strength and they're not dopey from the flights, they're a hard bird to shoot. So, these are different factors of it that, and some guys that hunt different birds kind of is like a resentful thing in some ways that, there's some arrogance to a grouse hunter. I don't think it's an arrogance. I don't personally treat it as an arrogance because I love hunting quail. I love hunting every game bird in the country. But there is a certain level of expertise or skill or whatever you want to use to be a successful grouse hunter on a regular basis. I have to respect that versus hunting some of those other birds.
I mean, us as being newbies to grouse hunting, I felt I can speak for myself. I don't know, I want to speak for my brother, but that was one of the game birds that I was always intimidated because, you walk into the woods with your shotgun with squirrel hunting and, you're trying to, run into the field with a rabbit or something like that. Occasionally you'd catch a grouse, to me, you'd kick it up. It scared the shit out of me because I wasn't prepared for it. Like walking to your deer stand, we said earlier, I'm walking to my deer stand and then you hear this thing take off. It sounds like a helicopter in the pitch dark, the quietest environment you could be in. And you stand there and you're frozen. You're like, what was that? And, when we had walkie talkies or stuff like that, we're talking to each other. But to me, it was one of the game birds that I felt hunting was a little intimidating because we didn't know much about it. We, our fathers and grandfathers and the guys that, we cut our teeth that taught us how to hunt. Nobody really grouse hunted. It was by accident. If you we're up in the tall pines, somewhere on state land and we were successful squirrel hunting and you spooked up a grouse, it's like you got one grouse. Always intrigued me. And then back in December, I got invited to the dinner where I met Todd, and it was an education. I mean, I was very impressed with the whole thing. Contacted, I walked over to Todd. I introduced myself. I told him, I'm a volunteer with the Boy Scouts. We had kids that are always looking for some type of service project, and shot him an email, asked him to come on here. And like I said, I've been following Giuseppe for a while now. I love his whole concept. The grouse father. He's got the grouse mob, and they're always, like you said, they're always putting up pictures of birds. I like the the throwback pitches, same thing like Lewis and I, we always got the throwback pitches and stuff. But for somebody like Lewis and I, if I want to grab my Ithaca, my Model 37 with a fixed choke tube and just walk in with no dog, I mean, what is our success rate?
Well, I mean, look, your success rate is just as good without a dog as it is with a dog, but you have to understand a few things to understand that. Why is that happening? Why are you flushing a bird while you're deer hunting? You're carefully walking in. You're probably stopping every so often. So that triggers the fight or flight in that bird. They're going to tuck away. You're going to stop. So when I didn't have a dog, even as a kid, when I hunted next to my parents' house, I literally would walk 10 steps, stop, walk 10 steps, stop, walk 10 steps, and I'd probably put a woodcock or a grouse up in an area that was, conducive to it.
Yeah.
So a stop and go, quote, stalk type hunt where you're hunting slowly and being carefully probably is going to yield the same amount of chance you do with a dog. See, here's the thing. A dog is great, but people don't understand what makes a grouse dog. A grouse dog isn't a dog that just learned it. A year later, you're going to nail grouse a tree. You're going to shoot a few grouse over that dog early on. I have. My dog just turned a year old. This season, he was like 9 months, 10 months old. Opening morning, 10 minutes in, I shot a bird. Does that make him a grouse dog? No. Absolutely not. Why? Because he's going to bump 1,000 birds by the time he actually figures out that he has to, and this is my theory, and my guys argue with me, but it takes the right tempo, it takes the right speed, it takes the right nose, and it takes the right DNA to make a grouse dog. If a dog's going too fast, they're going to move out way before he gets there. If they're moving too slow, they're going to move out way before he gets there. If he's moving at the right speed, he's going to pin him. So whether he makes it early, makes it not, that's the dog aspect of it. And it takes time. And the only way to teach a grouse dog to be a grouse dog is to improve the amount of wild touches. I use a guy named Adam Zabriskie up in New Hampshire. I send my dogs to him all summer. So the temperature's cooler up there. They're on birds every day and they're exercising every day. What justice does that do to my dog? Does a lot of justice. Why? Because when it's time for hunting season, they're conditioned to it. There's guys that tie up their dogs or put them in a cage all year long, and then all of a sudden, October, they expect to take him out. Hey, he's a bird dog. Now it's time to hunt him. Well, you didn't run those beagles. You didn't run those bird dogs. You didn't do anything for the whole year. Now all of a sudden, you want them to be champs. Wrong. You got to make a commitment to a bird dog, just like you make a commitment to whatever you choose to do, and it takes all year long. If these dogs are not at camp, we're meeting out east. We're taking them upstate. When the bird flights come back up, sometimes we were going to go up north and just bring a blank gun and put them on woodcock, just as training. More touches, the more you get. Now, for the guy that says, I got an 1187 or I got an 1100 or an 870 Express, and I want to start experimenting more in grouse hunting, get a map, get on X, get whatever, read RGS and learn about the terrains, learn about growth, learn about an 8 to a 12-year cycle, early growth, young growth, where there's a lot of whips, stuff like that. Those are places that have enough opening, that have enough space in between the trees to have that undergrowth that just thrives on some of that salad that they eat, some of that multiflora, some of that, all those vegetation. So now you know that in your head, you're a guy that doesn't have a dog that, I want to try this thing out. I want to see if I can shoot one of those things. Okay. Get a map, get some state land and say, oh, I see that. They cut that there. This is, and it could be, RGS is in a ton of public land spots, and it's all geared towards this. They regenerate trees, they replant trees, all these different things. Those are pretty good areas right off the spot. Why? Because they're pretty much tailored to that. They're creating the terrain for them. So grab your go take a walk. What do you got to lose? Get some exercise for a fat guy like me. Lose a couple of pounds. Throw your gun over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Stop. Walk 10 steps. Stop. You might feel like a fool that you're doing it, but guess what? You're probably going to put up a bird. You might put up a bird. That's the only thing I can tell you, Ed. That's if you want to start, that's what you got to do.
I appreciate that, and we're definitely. I think Lewis and I are going to get another way to get out of the house.
Absolutely.
Come
Absolutely.
the fall.
You guys also got me, so
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to call.
We'll reference you. If you can come one day, you can come by us, or we'll go where you want to go. Where our property is, there's a lot of reforested area that has a lot of undergrowth. And I mean, I'll be 60 in about 3 weeks. And if I'm not ready when I'm walking, you should stop shooting. If I'm not ready, they're just too fast. They're definitely too fast. So I have to be like walking like brr, bang, or else he's going to watch him go. Right. And that's just the way it is. Because a lot of times we used to go pheasant hunting. We're big Goshen guys. When we first started going hunting, my dad had a lot of friends that had moved from Brooklyn to Goshen.
We lived right off. We lived in Goshen. I lived on Conklin Town Road for 18 months when I was a kid. When I was 9 years old, we used to hunt off of 17, exit 1 to Chester exit. Remember all that property? That was the first bird I ever shot in my life was there. That same thing with me. That we're Brooklyn, we're from Bensonhurst, we're from Cropsey Avenue, we went there.
You know where we hunted mostly, believe it or not, I call it Goshen because you got the Goshen exit, but we hunted Campbell Hall, where 207 and 208 meet, LaGrange, like over there. That's where my father's friend had a place called the Lido Motel, and he had about 150 acres, and he had a pool and a pool hall in the place, a little motel, and we used to go and hunt behind there. And it was really had an apple orchard. It was a really nice piece of property. I mean, from when I was 1969, when I was like 6, 7 years old, I was the dog. You know, my dad and my uncle would take me and my brother. My brother was 2 years younger than me. He's 8 years younger than me. So he wasn't even around then. He was born in 70. We started going with dad. It was 60. It was in the late 60s. But those are treasured days. It was great times. My father had an old 64 F-85. We'd go to the hot shop, stop, get breakfast, go there. And I remember, looking at all the guys, my father used to call the guys with ponytails or with camo clothes weirdos because he would wear the brown and the red. Oh, these guys wear green. Look at these guys. They think they're in the army. So it was. We always enjoyed ourselves, but that was one of my first memories of hunting with dad and my uncle.
Those days were different. That's when you used to shoot a deer, and then you used to bring it and drive down 18th Avenue with it on your hood of your car. That was a completely different days.
Completely different days.
Completely different. Parade.
No one looked at it. Don't shoot a spike. Don't shoot a 6-pointer. Don't shoot a small tape shot. Whatever. Meat was meat. They didn't care.
Yeah.
They were huge rabbit hunters. Back in those days, my dad and my Uncle Joe were very big rabbit guys. They really enjoyed the rabbit hunting, to be honest with you.
And then they started going up towards like Cobleskill, Middleburg, that area. You know, there's a ton of rabbits and a ton of grouse in Middleburg. It's Schoharie County.
We're only an hour west of there. We're in Shenango. We're like an hour and 20 minutes west of there.
We had 754 acres in Shenango County. We had 400 acres in Preston, and we had 354 acres on King Settlement Road for years. And then my father passed away. We had sold it. We had a restaurant. My father had restaurants all over upstate Norwich, Oneonta. We owned Mama Nina's for a while, and all of Bainbridge, Afton, Walton.
We're in Bainbridge, Afton, right over there. Coventry, we're in. Two towns up.
Yeah, off of 206. Yeah, we
and 41, 206 and 41. We're like right there.
My father during the 80s and part of the 90s had him and his partners had a bunch of restaurants all over upstate. They left Brooklyn, sold their construction businesses. I had two uncles from my uncle from Monroe, who was a brother Bruno's in Monroe. They moved up there, and they opened a bunch of places, but they were all those guys wanted to get out of here. My father was driving with 2 feet. Okay, that's what he used to say. I used to drive with 2 feet. I couldn't stand it. Get me upstate. They were all country people because on the other side, it was all country. It wasn't city. You know, where they come from in Calabria, it was, you know, dirt roads. They just paved them in, I don't know how many years ago, not too many years ago. So, you know, these guys were, and I've said it in previous podcasts that I was on, they were bird hunters because either you were a bird hunter or you were a rabbit hunter. Jackrabbits or cottontails, whatever it was, quail, migratory birds from Africa would fly across into there. They had a whole different slew of birds that we've never even seen. And they had the Eurasian woodcock, you know, but like I've said in the past, they had mongrels. They didn't have no money. They had mutts. They trained any dog to do anything. And you could train any dog to do anything. It's just how effective they're going to be. You know, it's DNA, you know, but I guess those mutts DNA, they were all mutts that all hunted. So I guess maybe all their DNA were, you know, hunt dogs too, but they wanted to get out of here to go up there and buy land, do whatever they want. If they could get a tractor, they were not afraid to do the work. They raised pigs, they raised cows, they raised goats, they raised chickens, whatever it was, because they wanted to eat fresh meat.
Yeah.
When deer season came along, they killed the deer. When bird season came along, the state would release pheasant. They'd go hunt pheasant. They would go hunt grouse, woodcock, turkey when it opened in the early 80s. You know, those are things that we all enjoy as city guys. Todd, you're not down here with us, so you don't know the pain that we go through with sitting in traffic. But for us, you know, what happens? We get over the bridge, and it starts the beginning, the descent of the stress. We get out of here. We start forgetting about the ambulance noises, the cop cars, the brake lights in front of us. Now, all of a sudden, we get on 17. It's over. Then you can start relaxing. Then you start daydreaming. Then you start, like, tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up. I'm going to shoot a couple of birds. I'm going to catch a couple of fish. Whatever you go to do. That, if I don't have that in my life, I'd probably be 6 feet under. That is the best medicine, and I think I get full blood pressure and all kinds of stuff every morning. None of them work as good as that. Not one pill works as good as that.
Well
I
said.
agree. I agree.
All morning, the leaves are on fire, the dog's wet from the dew on the leaves. You're hearing that bell go. You hear a wild flush off in the distance. You don't get mad. You know, these are the things for me that every minute, and I supply heavy highway, high-rise construction, and I'm constantly like in and out of the city and in and out of every big civil project. So everything you get mad at when you drive by, that's my living. I supply those big projects. So for me, it's like, you know, I'm there, but half the time my brain is like somewhere else. So half the time I'm like chasing a dog or bird or something in my head, because those are the things that we all need. And some people, you know, find it other places. Guys on the island love fishing. You know, we all love fishing in some way, but some guys that they eat, sleep, and drink fishing. You know what? That's what you're passionate about. Go. If you're a guy that enjoys souping up cars and going a quarter mile and doing, you know, that's what you love doing, go do it. For us, this is a sport that either it's scrutinized by, you know, some of the anti-people, or just some people don't understand it, or that it wasn't brought up that way. And the thing that I love that's going on is a rebirth. And Todd, you've probably seen a lot of this too, is this guys that fathers and grandfathers didn't hunt. And they're learning. And they say, you know how many guys have hunted with me that had no outdoor upbringing whatsoever?
A lot of our guys are like that. A lot of our new guys and some of the kids from the Boy Scouts, their parents or grandparents had no skin in the game. They never hunted, even owned any kind of firearms or bow and arrow, nothing. And my brother Andrew takes a lot of them under the wing, and he shows a lot of them, and they appreciate it dearly.
And you know what? Edge, that's beautiful. I love you for that, because that is the entry to a great, what we enjoy. Look, how many stories do you tell about certain things, and how many stories do you tell about hunting? You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you're really an outdoorsman, those are like prize moments. Yeah, you know, your kid graduating and all those things, those are prize moments for us, of course. This is we're humans. But on a personal, selfish level, those are the things that you're like, you know, I remember at a time I put up like 3 grouse in one thing. For me, that was like, wow, you know, but you got to be a respectable person. If you see anybody that I'm affiliated with, or if you look through my feed on social media, you won't see multiple birds on the tailgate. You won't see like 20 grouse on a tailgate. That's not because I can't shoot 20 grouse. It's because I feel that it takes away, and I'm not, you know, I'm not criticizing a guy that does it, because there's plenty of guys that are just proud, and you know, whatever it is. But for me, I'm not a guy that was willing to be that guy that has an abundance of birds. I see some guys making a major mistake. They have a dog crate, and on top of the dog crate, they got like 50 birds. You're one guy. Where did you shoot those 50 birds? There's bag limits. Where are you? What are you parading right now? Who are you showing off to? And, you know, for me, I personally, and again, this is not a rib on anybody else, but I think it's tacky. You go through my whole feed, you will not find multiple birds. You'll find a couple of birds. You might find 2 birds in my hand. You might find me and another guy with a couple of birds each in my hand. That's it. It's not about the showing off, because all that's cataloged in my brain. I don't need to say, oh, me, Giuseppe, big bad hunter. Ooh, no. This is a thing that I'd rather tell you, you know, are you interested? This is how you do it. If you want to come with me, my door's open. If you don't, or there's somebody in your area that I know that's a very good, responsible hunter that could teach you, I'll hook you guys up together.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's in North Carolina. That's my friend. He's in West Virginia. That's a buddy of mine. If you're down there, look up with him. If I call him and tell him, "Lady, listen, this is," most of the time they'll say, "Oh, you're friends with Giuseppe? Definitely. Come on, I'll take you out." If you are responsible and respectful, if you do send somebody to somebody else, or say try to make that bridge between those people, they're going to say, "Oh, if he's all right with Giuseppe, he's all right with me." That's what, you know, like Edge is doing with the Boy Scouts. It's same thing. You got to be able to install the right basis to be a responsible person, and RGS is a great way to enter in that. With this territory here, we chartered the Big Apple chapter. Unfortunately, COVID happened, some personal stuff happened, so it's kind of was on back burner for a little bit. Right now, we're trying to bring it back up at some point. I don't know. It's been dead for a while now because of all these stuff that's going on. And, you know, other chapters have been going great guns and still doing banquets and stuff like that. You got to get it back on, because we have a lot of guys here in the metro New York area. And that covered Long Island, the 5 boroughs, probably some of southern Connecticut, probably some of, you know, eastern Jersey. Just by proximity, if they wanted to come over, they can easily come over. But now, Angeles, we're in an area where a lot of guys from the island like to go upstate, right? They want to utilize all this stuff. Not a lot of them either have time or didn't know that there's a project that they could be involved. So the onus is on the chapter to educate them a little bit. But even if you can't, okay, so you can't physically do it. You can't go upstate. You can't allocate a weekend. You're busy. You're busy doing whatever. You got pockets. There's some affluent people here. We don't make nickels and dimes. To live here, we can't make nickels and dimes. You gotta have a couple of bucks in your pocket. So what? Donate it. You want to be able to get off your ass and go upstate and go utilize the land to do something. Least you could do is reach in your pocket, get $10, $20, $30. I spend more on less.
Yeah.
Utilize what you got, or donate to it, or at least pay for something. That was the whole purpose of
Very good point.
setting up here, was look, we get a lot of guys that show interest, and a lot of guys that are immediately involved with me started doing a little bit more focus on grouse hunting after they met me a little bit more. You know, listen, here we got the co-op pheasant season. It's November 15th until December 31st. You can go out to the co-op, pick a number, you go shoot free pheasant. It's for free. And to be honest with you, it's awesome because it's deer season upstate. I don't really deer hunt since my dad passed away in 2012 as much as I used to. Now my son's coming of age and he wants to go, so I'll probably get back more into it again. But I got dogs. I want to keep them fresh. I want to keep them going. It's nice to drive an hour instead of driving 4 hours to go.
Absolutely.
Shoot a couple of birds, eat a couple of slices of pizza, and come home. I'm done. I can do whatever I need to do, and that's it. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars are spent on conservation. Our licenses are spent on conservation. It's paying for the birds. Utilize it. So if you can't go upstate, go shoot a couple of birds there. You can go walk without a dog and put up pheasant at the
We've been doing it for years. We very rarely had people with dogs go with us unless we were on one of those
Preserve hunt.
preserve type thing. You know what I'm saying?
We
did a couple of tower shoots and stuff for like charities and things too.
We do a bunch of mentor hunts. We did a hunt with the scouts. We signed up in September. We put all new hunters, and there was like veterans and some handicap hunters, stuff like that, proxy hunters. And the DEC gave us, for every person we signed up, they gave us 2 birds, and they gave us I forgot where it was. It was one of the properties through the co-op, but it was south of Sunrise, and the Long Island Point Association. It was guy Jimmy Shea and another guy came. A couple of those guys were Eagle Scouts. Eagle Scout. One of the guys is an Eagle Scout. JFK signed his letter. When you become an Eagle Scout, the sitting president signed your letter. So this guy was an Eagle Scout when JFK was in office, and what they taught the kids and mentored the kids. And, they showed us, DE showed us proper way to, to plant the birds out there. We waited a little bit and we took the kids out. We did a couple spot and stalk. And then we did some with the dog. We showed them proper way how to hunt over a dog and stuff like that. And, Giuseppe, you said you take your dogs and you send them to, up north for guys, you got to hold on one second. I'm sorry. I got my son calling from the Coast Guard. And he's got his orders, and I'm hoping he didn't go to Duluth, Minnesota. What's up, Nick? Nick, I'm on my podcast, buddy.
Oh, okay. All right.
You want to call in?
Probably later. Right now, I'm just reviewing over stuff I need to know for Friday.
All right. I'm curious to see what you got for your pick. I'll call you a little later.
All right.
I love you.
All right, later. Bye-bye.
Sorry about that, guys. He's down in Yorktown. He's in electrical school, taking up MEA electric classes. And today they put out their sheet. He thought he was going to get somewhere like Sector 1 in Boston. And then he's texting his mom and I that Duluth, Minnesota might be something. So I apologize, but there's not a few things that take me off my mark. If my mom and dad would have called or one of my sons, I got to take the call. I'm sorry. But we took these kids out and we showed them, proper way how to hunt over a dog. Like I was saying, Giuseppe, you said you send your dogs, to like summer camp, because they're athletes. Athletes got to be trained 12 months out of the year. And the Long Island Point Association, they gave us a good education, more than I knew, about dogs and stuff like that. And they told these kids, they're more like they said hunters, I'm going to say athletes over pets. And it was a good education. We showed them proper way to clean them. And then my thing is, we showed them how to cook them. And I had some pheasant that I cooked up, ahead of time. And I had some bear. We made bear meatballs, some venison, stuff like that. And I think I made pheasant like a franchise. I made like these little bites and stuff like that. We served them in these little dishes and stuff. But we're all about the food. Sometimes we leave our shotgun shells at home. And it's more of the cannoli shells than the shotgun shells, like our cousin Santos says. It's all about camaraderie. It's all about being together. It's all about sharing stories. It's being, Todd and Giuseppe, we consider you guys family. We're all in a hunting community, and if we met you guys on a trap range, while practicing mid-season or something like that, or even on a golf course, anywhere outside or hiking a trail, we have a common bond together because we're outdoorsmen, we're conservationists. When the National Forest Day comes around, and I tell people that one day that somebody plants a tree, it makes them feel, happy. We're planting trees 12 months out of the year. We're picking garbage up in the woods, leave no trace 12 months out of the year. Summer camping, winter camping, and all the things that we do, it's near and dear to our heart, but we want our lands to be clean, and we want them to be here for tomorrow, for future generations.
And to be preserved. Preservation is the biggest key.
Yeah, preservation of land is huge.
Habitat, over deforestation of everything, overdevelopment it's just sad in some places, but it's going to force me to leave this area that I loved, and I've been living here about 22 years in central New Jersey, because it just that everybody who was like my dad's age that had big pieces of property sold to developers. Now you're going to have 2 million homes, warehouses, Amazon, and it's just going to look like Queens in 5 years. So I might be heading south. I'm figuring, but we'll see. We'll see. Right now we're hanging in there. You know what I mean? So I'll take that 4-hour ride anytime you want to go, and I'll drive. You tell me when you want to go. We got a place up there where we'll welcome anytime. You too, Todd, anytime. Welcome. And I'll tell you one thing, you'll never go home hungry. Don't worry about piece of pizza. We got pizza oven. We'll drive you insane. You see the stuff we make, you'll lose your mind.
That's why, Lou, you guys got to come to my camp. You guys got to look at pictures of our camp. We're all cooks. We all grew up in the restaurant business. One of the guys.
That's right. I forgot you said that before. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We are like buffoons, man. I got guys from Canada come.
For sure.
They make it's homemade superzata, like capocollo. Like my family, we're Calabrese. We do a lot of salamis. I got guys that bring prosciutto. We brought a porchetto one year, a whole porchetto. We do. One of the guys' family owns a gourmet. They prepare gourmet foods for grocery store chains. All the big ones, Stop and Shop. But high end.
I'm in the same line. I serve those stores myself.
So this guy brings like two whole filet mignons. We do. We do it up. We do it like, this is the way you guys. It's the same thing. Food is our life. Listen,
That's it. Now you're talking.
I eat. I like to eat. Guys come from work from all over. I work for a national company. Guys come from all over the place. They never leave here like feeling skinny at all. They can hear themselves getting fatter by the second. That's the way I like it. That's what makes Italian guys. That's what makes us happy.
That's exactly right.
That's part of the whole thing. What are we going to eat? What are you making, Israel? What are we going to eat?
That's what exactly. And then you get excited because look, and I say it every year, our camp is great. We get into birds, we run dogs, we do everything, but I don't give a crap. We're sitting at the table at the end of the night. Who pops a wine? I'm not a big drinker that much anymore, less now than I did when I was younger. But, guys mix a couple of mixed drinks. One night we'll have, orecchiette with sausage and broken it up.
Nice.
One night we're doing steaks. One night we're cooking birds, whatever it is. We do camp the way camp is supposed to be done. And it's always, everything tastes so great because everybody's got good taste. So if you got good taste buds, you're a good cook. That's the bottom line. There's nothing else to it. And we eat right. And you guys, same mentality. And listen, the home is your heart. You sit down, you tell every lie about every bird that flew. And you should have missed. The tree got in the way. I use them all. I use every one of them. I'm the biggest liar when it comes to that. The tree got in my way. The sun was in my eyes. Whatever it is. For shits and giggles, that's what you do. It's part of the game. It's part of what we do. We tell the biggest, lies about the biggest things, but it's all about, sitting down together, all at a table. We're all happy. It's not that we want to be away from our family, but this is something that's yours. So when you go, even if it's for a day, it's for an hour, that belongs to you. That's the one thing that, I don't care who it is or what it is, or how much they hate hunting, or they're against it, or whatever. We have camaraderie. We have a brotherhood. We have, and it, and guys can argue with each other, or mine's bigger than yours, and all that crap. Whatever you want to do, at the end of the day, you guys are brothers. Even if you're fighting, you're still brothers.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the thing, that if we push each other in a positive direction, and it starts at a young age, like these kids that are getting introduced through Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, whatever it is, into that fraternity and sorority. We shouldn't just put girls out of the whole thing, but into that whole lifestyle. They'll understand that we aren't the detriment to those areas. We are the keepers of those areas. We are the guy that want to still see that. You just said it best. They're building, Amazon warehouse, tilt up. We call it tilt up in my industry. Tilt up all over the place, track housing everywhere, ruining everything. You're right. Those are spots, and we were just saying it about by Goshen, by Chester, that whole Arcadia Hill.
I remember when there was nothing there. When I was a kid, there was nothing there.
Nothing there. Nothing. And now it's gone. I could tell you covers when I was growing up upstate that, little by little, all of a sudden you would see like a modular put in up the hill. So it's kind of too close. You can't do that little. There was like a little, we call it a little bowl. And it's Upper Green Street, Ottawa, in Otsego, New York. And all of a sudden, like, there was a modular hole put up on the little hill. So you couldn't shoot that direction anymore. It wasn't close, but, listen, you got to respect it. It's still a house.
Oh, it's a guy's house, of course. I agree. So
you're far enough. You're legal. You can do it. But I don't want to shoot towards a house. And I don't care how far away I am. So we would approach it from a different side. 2 years later, a trailer on the other side of the road. Forget it. It's done. Stick a fork in that. We should shoot 3 or 4 birds, no matter what, out of that little bowl. And encroachment. It's whittling away all the potentials. So people don't understand. Private land isn't the way it used to be. Now, for me, as a bird hunter, I approach a private owner. Hey, you think, there's a little hill back there. You think I can go hunt there? Now we have bow hunters there. Okay. What are you going to argue?
Oh, it's their property.
Bow hunting. I'm a bird hunter. I can't. But at the same time, I don't remember as a kid anybody telling me I couldn't hunt there because there was a bow hunter there. Now that's a thing. So now we're sharing it with every little piece of our thing. And I bow hunted too. Don't get me wrong. But now we're sharing it. So what do? We look up all the potential public lands that we can utilize. We go there, and now you don't just got me. It was 1 or 2 guys that when I was a kid, we never even looked at public land. Who knows who's in there? I don't know.
There was a lot more habitat back then than there is now. Private land that wasn't developed.
Right. So now you're looking at that, and you're like, okay, I go in there, and I 90% of what I hunt now is public land. So I'm a public landowner. You're a public landowner. There's a huge movement across the country, public landowners. And, we have to protect that. We have to do things. There has to be lined up with, whether it's your RGS and you're in the Northeast and the Midwest, and, and some of the, and the Eastern Seaboard, all the way down through where there's a huge presence with RGS, or whether it's CRP and Pheasants Forever, or if you're
CRP Montana.
Those are the institutions that, as much as you think, well, they're just a club and our money never goes there. Bullshit. The money goes to whatever it is. It's just how much can you allocate to certain projects. And the accounting is the accounting. So all these people that are naysaying RGS or naysaying Quails Unlimited, that, they're looking, it's all transparent. These are public entities. So you can see where it gets allocated. It's not private. Oh, the CEO got this or this. all this soap opera crap, put it away, folks. As my message, put it away. Whether it's a CEO or whether it's somebody that's in office or whatever it is, they're putting the time in. That's their livelihood. That's a torch that they picked up to do. If you're going to do it, you do it for free and shut your trap. You know what I mean? These are people that are pointing to these things. Stop fighting it and saying, I don't use it in an excuse. I don't want to put my money into something that there's nothing going to be out of it. Bull. Put your money into it because it's going to buy a tree. It's going to put a radar on that woodcock. It's going to do all those different things. You got to be part of it in order to do it. You got to believe it in order to do it. And everybody's going to find something to argue about at some point. It is what it is. This is
human nature.
You're taking a custodianship of the forest, is what you're doing.
Right.
We're custodians of this earth. It's not ours, it's God's, and I believe, I can't speak for everybody else, and we are here to be custodians of it. As much as people try to be profiteers off of it, that's okay too, don't get me wrong, but you have to leave some green space for the animals and the people and everybody to enjoy.
Absolutely.
That's what I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm crazy, but
No.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Lou. And that's what we're doing with RGS. I mean, we're having this wonderful conversation, folks. So if you're listening and you're new to all of this, I mean, one of the benefits too, if you're curious about grouse and grouse hunting and bird dogs, one of the biggest benefits of linking up with RGS is meeting folks like Giuseppe, right? I mean, Giuseppe's been talking tonight about bringing out all these great tips about getting started, whether you got a dog or not. So if you're new and you're curious and you want to try this, there's no better organization than RGS to find like-minded people who are working on this, who care about birds, who care about dogs, who care about all of this stuff that we're talking about. And if you're in it and you've been doing it a while, like Lou, you're talking about the good old days back with your dad and in the 60s. And, the message is that what we're trying to do with RGS is make sure that some of those good old days are still in front of us too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to maintain that opportunity. And, and there's a habitat need. And, Giuseppe's talking about all these covers and all these whips and the kind of places that grouse and woodcock like. And that's what we do. Like, we work every single day with our chapter support, with your members. If you're joining RGS this month, we've got an RGS membership initiative where you can join for $60. We have a lot of great sponsors. One of our great sponsors is Pike Gear. And we have this promo for the first 500 people that join in March. They get a really cool limited edition hat. There's some other opportunities. You can find it either at roughgrousesociety.org or the uplandstore.org and go to like membership initiatives. But yeah, that's $60 well spent. Like, you're supporting a group that's working for you. You're supporting a group that's going to help you get started. That's maintaining the opportunities out there to keep forests, keep those thickets out there, those covers that the grouse like, those ones that like snatch your hat off when you walk through them. But like, that's what RGS is all about.
The dreaded briars.
Yeah. So, never a better opportunity to get connected with great people than to join up. Go to roughgrousesociety.org. Get a $60 membership. It'll be the best $60 you spend if you can afford it.
I just got my letter when I signed up that night when I met you, Todd.
Don't forget, the $60 gives you dual membership. So the dual membership is the Rough Grouse Society and the AWS.
American Woodcock.
American Woodcock, yeah.
Okay.
That's a dual membership. So you're participating in conserving both of those. And it's a very important thing, because we're getting some understanding about some changes in woodcock habit. When I was growing up, you can wind your watch to the day that those birds would be coming through my area. That's no longer that way. And this is not just science or now that I'm aware of a certain way. I mean, if you looked at my hunting logs, and I have hunting logs when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, Central New York, Oneonta area, where I grew up, where I went to high school, you would see the woodcock coming through on November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's it. Those are the flights. You rarely saw a resident bird, and we were running dogs. So now all of a sudden there's resident birds. So there's some changes going on, with our geology as well that's affecting this. We picked the 3rd week in October to be up north, and that's the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. We're hedging on the fact that they're starting to leave New Brunswick and that area and start working their way south. So we're thinking we're going to catch flights on the way down.
Okay.
We caught it a couple of years. We didn't catch it a couple of years. It's ever changing. So, those dollars go to that too. There's a lot involved in that. But guys, we can't also forget one other thing that we're leaving out of this whole conversation. You guys got to shoot often as you can.
Oh, you're talking to the wrong guys. We try to get it every day if we can. I live a mile from the range. I can live down there if I want to. So.
I shoot at Peconic. I shoot at Cedar Creek in South Jersey. I shoot at Orvis. I'm good friends. I'm on the Orvis Pro program with them, and that's the other thing. Sharpen your game. Keep your game sharp. Keep your swing fluid. Do your best. That's part of conservation, guys. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
Shoot once a year because you just went so good. Take a gun. Take your kid shooting. My son goes with me. Whatever he feels like when he wants to put the remote control down for the Xbox or whatever he wants to do, he'll come with me. And I go with my friends. I started competitively shooting a couple of years ago, so now I'm diving way deep into it, spending all kinds of stupid money on it. But for me, it's all year round.
You clay shoot, Giuseppe?
I do a lot of sporting clays and fit task. I travel. I shoot the New York State Championship. I shoot a lot of fit task stuff around here.
He would like Lou's shoot, Andrew.
Yeah.
So
there's one coming up in June. I'll keep you posted. We got a friend of ours. They have a little private club.
He'll like this place.
It's a little private club.
These are old Italian guys came here after World War II. Bought a beautiful piece of property on the east side of above Dutchess over there. Beautiful.
Oh, good.
Way off the beaten path. Beautiful.
Not 10 Mile. It's not a public club.
No. No, it is private. It's a private club.
A club before the town was a town. How you like that one?
Got it.
Yeah.
But the point is, keep your swing going, guys. I mean, listen, you got to be, when you go deer hunting a couple weeks before, everybody runs to Calverton if you live on the island, or runs to Smith Haven or whatever, Brookhaven or wherever, to go sight in their rifles and do whatever. You want to make sure you're on the paper, right? You want to make sure that it's no different with a bird. You want to keep your swing fluid. You want to be able. Listen, I don't mind missing. I want a good miss.
Exactly.
I don't want a wounded bird, especially if you don't have a dog that's going to go search for it. Why am I going to go kill a bird I can't find? And it pained me when we lose a bird. All of us cry, literally, I got to go back there. I got to check again. And I wear a GoPro, and if you go to YouTube, you'll see some of the stuff. I wear a GoPro, especially with my dog. I just like to catalog everything. I actually popped the GoPro off and watch. There's a viewer on the back and try to see where that bird went down. I go back to that spot. If you wound a bird, they could crawl into a gopher hole. They could crawl under a log. They could crawl in by a creek. It doesn't matter where. That's why I want a good dead shot if I'm going to do it. And there's no other way to do it than if you don't have access to a sporting clay or a clay range. If you're in this Metro New York area,
zillions of them.
You got options. You got in the Long Island. You got Suffolk. You got Peconic. There's one up by Sands Point. There's a bunch of stuff. You start heading north. You got Newburgh. You got Mid Hudson. You got Orvis. You got
Lehigh. There's a bunch of them.
Jersey. You got in Millville, New Jersey. You got Cedar Creek. You got M&M south of that. Mm-hmm. There's a ton.
Central Jersey. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, sure.
So even if you don't have to go every week, and especially now with ammo the way it is, you can't find it. But do yourself a service. And this is something that nobody ever talks about. And I always think it, and I say, I never said it in anything that I've been on. Shoot. Make sure that you're a killer. Make sure that you're going to knock it down. If you don't have a dog, especially, make sure that you're going to put that thing down. It sucks to lose a bird. It sucks. Not because you're not bringing it home, because that thing either's got to suffer or whatever it is. Knock it down. That's it. Practice.
You never hunted with Louis before. We used to refer to ourselves the very few, the very proud. We were like the Marine Corps. Louis
We go
was like-
crabbing. They missed the crab with their net. I beat the shit out of them. Forget about it. They didn't have a chance. They didn't have a chance.
Imagine if we missed a rabbit or a bird. I'd never hear the end of it.
I used to tell one kid, I think you should buy a fishing pole because you can't do this sport. You just keep missing.
That's right. And listen, Orvis, RGS actually has a couple of sponsored shoots around. I don't know so much now as they did before. They used to have a good sized one at Orvis. There was some, shoots around the other sides of the state. They're good functions to have because what better functions can you have? You get to shoot, you get to eat, you get to hang around people that all think the same way you think. It's a great thing. Guys, wherever you are, whoever's listening, however far you are, there's a chapter near you. Look it up. Go on rgs.org. Look it up. See what some of the functions are. See where what you can do. So maybe you can help out even with the functions. Maybe you can help clean the tables after it's done. If you want to do that, volunteer something or go. There's wild game dinners. A couple of guys up in mid Hudson area. They put up a couple of one in Kingston. There was one in Mayapack, a good game dinner that they had in Mayapack. Maybe we can work something out with you guys, do a game dinner for the
Without a doubt.
chapter when we do it, when we finally, get it back up and alive. And, things like that. It's fun. You get away from the house, go eat. You guys had a good time in New York, right? You guys went to that. That banquet is a great banquet every year. I missed it for the last couple of years. It's a great banquet. Most of the time you got the Beretta Gallery guys that show up there. They're great. I'm friends with Ed that's over there. Good guys. Lots of good affiliations with RGS. Like Todd mentioned, Pike, and there's a lot of people that are affiliated with, and people that should be more affiliated with RGS. And, those are things that you can reap the benefits of because, maybe some of these things you weren't privy to, what they do and what part they have in conservation. So then you learn that the corporation is an entity, right? We think of that. Some of these corporations are geared towards outdoors and sponsor outdoors, even if they're not in that space. I've always been impressed with that. So, these are venues, excuses to get out of the house. Maybe you don't like your wife. Maybe you don't like your sister-in-law. Maybe you don't like your neighbors. Get out of your house. Go over there. Eat something. Go bull crap with somebody else. It's nice. It's good. It gives you a purpose to get out of the house and go do something that you love and be around people that love it the way you do.
Yeah. And if you're looking for upcoming events with RGS, we have an events page on the website, roughgrousesociety.org. And if you happen to be like in the maybe Catskill area, for instance, or in central New York, where we're talking about Shenango County and so forth. Yeah. Triple Flush chapter out in Elmira. It's a little west of there, but it's maybe
it's a little west of us, yeah.
Yeah, maybe 45 minutes west of Binghamton, say. Triple Flush has a Birds and Brew on March 24th. It's at Bridges Bar and Grill in Corning. So if anybody's listening and they have ties to the Elmira Corning area or the Finger Lakes, that's worth checking out. If that's too far for you, just look at the website. We had an amazing dinner down in New York City a couple of weeks ago where I met Andrew. What a fun night, Andrew, that was, right?
Yeah, that was a really very impressive night. I was trying to get Lou to come, but he he gets out of work. He got to be in work at like 2:00 in the morning, so it definitely didn't work for his schedule. But we'll get him there
Yeah,
next year.
Lou, hopefully next year you can come. It's a lot of fun. There were great people. Just had a great event up in Mount Kisco. Probably a couple hundred people at the American Legion.
Oh, wow.
there. Yeah, that was like a wild game dinner.
That
and
was
fundraiser.
about 2 weeks ago. It was on a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all sorts of events going on, all sorts of opportunities to meet cool people like Giuseppe and others. And just keep us on your radar. Keep an eye on our website.
No, we definitely will. We got a couple private game dinners coming up. We're just trying to like reintroduce after the craziness of COVID, but we'll definitely keep you gentlemen in mind. We'll make sure you guys get a personal invite.
Absolutely.
One's going to be local by Lewis, South of Jersey. One's going to be local over here in Long Island. I run a couple. I chair an event for the Boy Scouts. It's at Peconic River, out in Wading River over there, to clay shoot for the Boy Scouts. So I'll get you guys a flyer on that. I also sit on a committee for the Disabled American Veterans clay shoot. That's in July, and that's a 10-mile preserve. So I'll make sure you guys get some flyers if you guys can come out.
Get you the information, especially if you like to shoot for, want to keep that swing going. Yeah. We'll get you swinging. Don't worry. We'll get you in the swing with us.
Yeah.
There's always good eats at these things too. So
it all sounds great. And I'll say too, like, y'all were getting me hungry talking about all your amazing food.
Well, I'm going to make you hungry now.
Oh, yeah. You're going to come.
I'm going to make you hungry now because I got Mike. Mike's got some pictures. I want Mike to put up some pictures. Mike, you got the pictures I emailed you? All right. So what those are pheasant meatballs. So what I do is I got my mom's regular meatball recipe, and I bake them off in the oven the day before. And the day I serve them, I bread them and fry them. And Mike, flip I don't know if there should be another picture.
Which way?
That one right there. So what that is, it's a pheasant meatball parmesan. So you bread them and fry them, so you almost got like a fried chicken cutlet.
Yeah.
And you serve them on a slider roll. You can have them just the way you want to have them, just like that.
They look amazing. When you first showed the picture of the breaded meatballs, when I came down to New York City, I went over to Oliva in Little Italy. It's like the cheese place that I go to, and they have these really cool like risotto balls. You know,
the rice balls. That's exactly what those. Yeah,
and that's what those look like. It's like
that's what everybody says.
Powder of that stuff. I like gorge myself. I come home with a bunch of cheese and make the big haul till next time. Grouse is pretty good to eat too. And like we're talking about food, and grouse and woodcock are both amazing. There's so many different things you can try with them. I have friends that make grouse pizza. I have a friend, Jamie Carlson in Minnesota, who does like skewers, like a chili rub for grouse, and cooks them on a wood fire. Nice. I like to just like pluck mine, and like I actually will cook them on like a wood fire and like just olive oil and pepper and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so
roast them a little bit.
Roasted. And original.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. So however you choose to do it, don't overlook that, because there's a really unique, fun taste. And if you're into like eating wild food, you got to try it sometime.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And on that note, woodcock. Now, and I was telling you yesterday, when woodcock is a tough thing to cook the right way. So there's so many different views on woodcock. You should make it rare. You should do this. You should do that. People got to understand, this is a bird that eats worms. So it's very livery in taste. It's its own texture to its meat. There's a certain way to cook it. I grew up, I didn't like the way the Italians were making it. But, we need to come up with as many, in terms of when you write your wild game cookbook, you got to have a few pages dedicated to the woodcock. You're going to have to shoot a few this year, guys. You're going to have to take it back. And you're going to have to start playing around with it. Now, I've had like a mousse pate type, and it was unbelievable on little crostinis. Unbelievable. I loved the way it was burnt garlic, and then it was whipped, and it just was unbelievable. It was like air. It was like a mousse. But I've had it where, you're going to love it this way, you're going to love it this way, and I took one bite and I was like, I don't love it. So that's a tough bird, and I'd love to see more recipes available and try it different ways because I don't waterfowl hunt because I don't eat the game. I don't really like waterfowl. That's my personal taste. I don't like the texture. I don't like the oil. I don't like anything in that realm, and therefore I don't hunt it because if I'm not going to eat it, why am I going to shoot it?
Yeah.
So woodcock, I love certain ways. They never go to waste because my mother, they take them. My uncles and aunts, they all love woodcock. All the Italians that are affiliated with me love, so they don't go to waste. I just wish I had more ways to cook them. So if anybody's listening, if you contact these guys or whatever, give them some recipes, please.
Yeah.
We need recipes. We need more woodcock alternatives. Grouse, you can cook them a million different ways. They always taste good. They are what they eat, and there's so many good. Grouse meat it's sweet, it's light, it's tender. There's a lot of different things you could do with it. Whether you're doing a grouse franchise or whether you're doing it, potato roasted with lemon, a little thyme, or however you want to slow bake it, like a Cornish hen. You do it.
Okay.
I've done them in wrapped in bacon. I've done grouse egg rolls. I've done them 100 different ways, and everything tastes great. But woodcock, it's a preferred way. And if somebody really knows how to cook them, and they've always getting compliments, please share that. We need that. That's something that's a bird that really needs it to do. It's a great bird.
I'll tell you what. One
Yeah.
of the best woodcock meals I've had. So I was out in Minnesota this fall. We were at our national hunt. We were hunting, and a friend of mine had shot a few woodcock, and we just did we were in the woods. We did a tailgate kind of roasting them up. We had some wild rice, some Minnesota wild rice, which is called manumin, I think, and some mushrooms, right? And we cooked all that stuff right up in like a skillet pan with some onions, and it was absolutely amazing. I don't know if you can see that. It's not really
It does look good.
It
I
was
can see the
amazing.
rice and everything. It looks great.
Yeah, it was good. So just like Giuseppe said, experiment with it a little bit. Has a unique taste, but if you pair it up with some earthy flavors, like some rice and some mushrooms and stuff like that, it can be incredibly good. It was, and if you're sharing it with fun people, good friends, it makes it even better, So
let me ask you guys a question. Can you get your hands on some woodcock that somebody would have in a freezer? If you can get it, because what I'm thinking right off the top of my head, I would like to brine it, and I'd like to make a pastrami, and I'll throw it on a smoker, and you permeate it with some smoke, get a different texture. And Mike, put up that little picture I got with the them little finger sandwiches. I don't know if you got it handy. There you go. So that's venison pastrami, and I made these little Reuben finger sandwiches. That's for the game party I did a couple weeks ago, and I put them out. And so I know, Giuseppe, you don't like goose hunting, or you don't like.
Oh no, that's my favorite.
Lewis hate. I don't want to say hated. It's a strong word. Disliked fowl, geese, duck, whatever we had, until I made it for him one day. And it was the simplest recipe. Soaked the cutlet. I soaked the breasts in water. Changed the water several times. You try to get that sting out of it. Our grandmother told us, you want to punch as much flavor as you can punch into it. I think I must have put a little lemon juice in there, just a little bit, just to release the blood. And I butterflied it. I made a cutlet, as big as a dinner plate, pounded it out, paper thin, and I breaded it, and I fried it in deep oil. And we did a regular salad from the tomatoes in the garden, fresh basil, some garlic and stuff like that. And I put that bruschetta right over it with a little olive oil, a little salt. I don't put any vinegar, in my salad. And you just put that olive oil on top of it with everything. He ate 3 pieces the size of a dinner plate, Lewis.
That's my favorite thing now.
I made him a believer. And then,
it's good. If you prepare it right, it's good.
Yeah, it's like I said.
And my experience with the chuckers and the quails is they like the legs, the breasts were always good, like you says, but the they were always tough. Bob White, all of that stuff was the partridge. They're always a little tough in like around the leg parts. But all the waterfowl, if you roast them and you brine them or you soak them, like it says, for some reason they're palatable.
Well, we make so with all the duck and the goose that we do. I usually make. I either make prosciutto. I make duck and goose prosciutto, or I'll make pastrami out of it. And
Or fried rice. He makes duck fried rice
the
too.
duck fried rice is probably one of my favorite things that I make because you separate that skin and you fry up the skin separately and you put them little crunchies on it. It's a whole different element. Mike, put up that pasta dish. Okay, so that right there it's an Alavaca sauce. Obviously, there's a ricotta cavatellis that I made my little machine. I got on Amazon, and that's duck. That's duck sausage. It's a regular family recipe. A hot sausage, fennel. I put so to get rid of that sting, that duck sting, you got to put some extra flavor in there. So I put a lot of fresh basil, a lot of fresh parsley, and if every pound of duck, I put a tablespoon of red wine in there, and I do that the day before. And I let it sit in the refrigerator, and all those flavors shine through. People couldn't believe that they were eating duck. I did add a little pork fat to the sausage because your mind is trained to eat, pork fat when you have sausage. Duck fat, not a lot of people like it. So I peeled the skin off, but it was my duck breasts and stuff like that. And listen, what we try to do is take it to the whole other element. And Giuseppe was on a podcast, and the other gentleman's name was Andrew. He was saying that when guys go hunting or they look at something on a sportsman's channel or something like that, it's that big, majestic Hallmark card moment that they get when they go out there and go hunting. And everybody shows you how to pull the trigger. That's the easiest thing. The hardest thing is if you shoot a deer or no matter, tracking your game, getting your game, proper care for your game. And we're not out there. We're out there to eat the game that we got. And as I guess all of our grandparents and parents before us, how they went out and they hunted and they foraged and they harvested the food because they wanted fresh food. And we're all buggy about the food where we get it and everything. We show you the proper care. It's meat. I teach a cooking class in one of the local high schools over here, and when they advertise, Andrew Field to the Fork and everything, I got more women want to try wild game than guys. And, I'll go, I got to buy it from a butcher. So I'll get bison and I'll show them how to do bison burgers and stuff like that. You get fallow deer and stuff, but you educate them. If they know how to cook it, you're going to attract a new sportsman. Louis said earlier, I got a bunch of families that were intrigued about hunting and stuff. We invited them to the house upstate just to go up and do a range day. They all got into hunting. The sons, the daughters actually made better shooters and better hunters than the sons and everything. And the whole family eats it. Mom, grandma, everybody eats it. We do a pig hunt. They want to go to shoot. They want to take 2 pigs because the meat was that good.
I want to throw this in for 1 second. Joe, you see when he had the sauce on his meatballs? That's our sauce. Every Labor Day, we do like 75 cases of tomatoes every year.
Yeah, we got that. I mean, that's a staple. We all do.
I figured you'd appreciate that. That's why I threw it in.
You see the tripod up for your jaws. You see the we call it our marching machine. But whatever it is, whether you're grinding it or whether I know I haven't been with my mother while she's on. My mother-in-law, they do, I don't know, between 2 or 3 families, they do 300-400 jaws. It's crazy.
That's like us.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Same thing.
But listen, the thing is, I'm gonna be moving out of Oceanside soon, and I'm gonna have a cantina. I'm gonna build one at whatever the next house is. So I'm gonna have an actual wine cellar, 14-inch concrete walls.
Nice.
I'm gonna do it the old way, fluted up. Gravel ground. They could add moisture when I want. So all my salamis, the prosciutto, anything that I'm hanging is going to culture the right way. It's going to go the right way. And I'll start making wine again. I haven't picked it up. My father passed away. A lot. We jar olives. We do, we do the broken olives. We do the olives formata with the fixed black olives. We do, giardiniera. We do all that stuff. We jar all that stuff. But it's going to be a lost thing. Again, it's similar to the hunting. Those are traditions, that you can't lose. Those are traditions that, as much as I hated it when I was a kid, my father used to plant, 200-300 tomatoes planted tomatoes, he peppers, string beans all along the fence, whatever it was. I hated that stuff as a kid. Now I'm like, it's a lost thing. I gotta start doing that stuff because all that stuff's gonna go to the wayside.
That's
It's nothing
exactly
different
right.
than hunting. If you don't pick, you gotta take your son or your nephew or kids or whatever. These are the things that if we don't pass it on, they're gonna get lost. My father's recipe. My father died of cancer in 2012. A couple of years before he did, he wrote on a napkin his suprezzata recipe, and then whether it's tzatzits or suprezzata or whatever kind of salamis that he was making, that region they would know. They're known for that. The Calabrese in that area or Bruchese or whoever, they're known for whatever salamis they are. My wife's family is from Frosinone, so that's a little more north, by Rome. Those are the guys that are made very well known for making prosciutto, and those are the things I want hanging. And it's funny you're saying that brining the woodcock. I'm definitely going to try to see if I have some in the freezer or my mother has them upstate. I'll bring you down a few.
Yeah.
Let's try that out. That sounds actually good. And I'm not a pastrami guy, but it makes sense.
Well, now we do that when you got that pastrami. So to stretch it, we can make egg rolls. You can make you make a Reuben egg roll, or we can something funky with an egg roll. We can make a wonton. You could make a rice bowl with it. I mean, I made venison pastrami and then I put it in rice balls. Listen, I like to play in the kitchen. My mind goes crazy. I find it to be therapeutic for me. Listen, when you mentioned yesterday, I'm like, there's got to be something we could do. I went through my little notebook of stuff and I'm like, you know what? That to me made the most sense. When a game that I never tried, something that you said the meat, I don't want to say a little funky, but you said it had a consistency of like liver and what they eat. So that's it. We'll put a good brine in, some juniper berries. We'll put some garlic. We'll get all that good stuff in there to brine it. We'll get maybe a 3-day brine and not a big breast, and then you put a nice little bark on it, and I'll throw it on the Traeger. We'll put some hickory wood or maybe some apple wood or something like that. I'll do a little research what they recommend, to good wood for that particular bird to give it a nice flavor. But I like the challenge. Gentlemen, we've been running an hour and 37 minutes. I could probably go for 4 hours and 37 minutes, but unfortunately, I got to.
He's like us. We can talk to him forever. Todd's a pleasure to talk to.
Yeah, I would love to have you guys
back on again. Guys. You guys taught us a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
we have a lot of research and development on this issue over here today.
Yeah, I'd love to have you gentlemen back on again. I can't thank you enough for coming on to our little podcast. It's been a pleasure having both of you guys. You answered my questions without even me asking you guys questions. I had a whole list of questions, but between the both of you guys, you got them. We know how we're going to get involved. Giuseppe, you want to get, involved and try to get that chapter off the ground. Lou, myself, my buddy Paul and Frank, we'd be more than happy to get in there. The only thing that I'm gonna, and I told you, I already spoke to my district executive, Kevin. So I'm going to put you in contact directly with him. I was supposed to have a Zoom with him last night, but he was he had a prior commitment he couldn't get out of. But we're going to get the scouts involved with you. And we got about 1,500 acres up in the Livingston Manor area. Love to get you out there, see what kind of service projects. Maybe we can, get some woodcock there, or maybe they're there already. We don't know it, but it's something to get involved with. And, I'd like to get both of you guys up to our property that we have and see maybe, listen, there was plenty of grouse up there. We had a couple neighbors that had no hunter integrity and hunter ethics. And like Giuseppe said, you got a guy that puts a pile of birds on top of the dog cage. We had a lot of that. Thankfully they're gone. They're no longer there. We're seeing a lot of game, but I really haven't seen a grouse in. This would probably be my second season that I have not seen a grouse up there. So I'd love to get you guys up there. You're more than welcome to come up. I'll roll out a porchetta. You guys will come. We'll have a good time. We got some homemade wine. We got a homemade Zambuca.
I was just gonna say that homemade wine, homemade Sambuca too.
Homemade Zambuca. We got some homemade amaretto. I got good coffee for my boys, and we'll have a good time. I
Can't wait.
guarantee that. I guarantee.
Yeah.
I'll be there with bells, and I'll bring some goods too.
Yeah.
I will
Count me in on that. I can't wait.
No, fair enough, gentlemen.
I
Like I said,
appreciate you guys having me, and I know
Yeah.
Todd. Saying
Well,
I
I picked up some of these hats today, so I'm going to get you guys out some hats. Todd, I think I got your address on your email. Giuseppe, I'll contact you as well.
I'll get you guys a couple of these. I'll bring them over.
I appreciate it.
appreciate
Yeah,
it, too.
definitely. We got some bling that we can help you guys out with. We got some things and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. And like I said, to get your the Long Island chapter and stuff like that with the circle of people that we know, I like it. We could probably get a couple good fundraisers. Get some raffles out there. We go see Beretta do some shotgun raffles and get a clay shoot. But
It's definitely something that needs to come back out of the ground. I just started with this other company. They snagged me from another company not too long ago on the 1st. So I'm establishing this territory work-wise for this company. So it's going to be a little tricky here for the next few months, but I'm hoping by spring I will go back to RGS and we'll see what the status is. I don't know at this point. I don't know if they had to pull it back because it's an entity that was kind of stalled. So
Yeah. We'll work that out. I'll hook you
Yeah.
up with Trip Way and Nate Kennedy, Giuseppe, and we'll.
Trips back in the fold. Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, we'll figure that out. This is something that it's a formality type thing. At some point, there was a few factors. There was a lot of guys interested. There was a lot of guys already going to get on board. Unfortunately, like I said, between personal and our whole circumstances that we all were going through at those times, it was hard to even have anything.
oh, sure.
So, a couple of guys that were involved with me, I don't know at this point at what their interest or availability is. If not, if you guys want to get directly involved like that, we'll work it out. We'll talk about it and we'll see, we'll get everybody we can involved, get it off the ground. Whether I can spend as much time with the vote as I planned on it at that point or not, one way or another, we'll see. And if it isn't me, we'll get somebody that can do right by it, and put the right amount of time into it. If I can't, that I will guarantee. So
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
look forward to it. And guys, we have a podcast that we've been working on for a while that we're going to be launching here in a couple months. We'd love to have all you guys on that. It's called Upland
I
Underground.
appreciate it.
And it's kind of it's going to kind of be a little bit more edgy than everything that Upland brings out. It's gonna be a little controversial. Let's just
That's
say.
okay. That's
So
okay.
it's gonna be a yin and yang to those conversations.
That's okay. Our controversial guy was not on tonight, so you kind of got the PG-13. So
Yeah, you got the
The New York
absolutely.
perspective is always welcome, and it's always an honest one. People don't understand that, New York is by demeanor, we seem like we're rude. We're not rude. We're the loyalest people in the world.
100%.
The thing about us is we smell bullshit. So if somebody's going to actually throw it in our way and we reply with a little rudeness, it's because we got you figured out. You're being fake to me. So a lot of people from different places don't get us a little bit. And, and sometimes they come across a little bit, like, these guys, and they think we all live in concrete jungles no matter where. They don't have no idea that upstate New York is as beautiful as it is. They just think
100%. I've been saying that, but you just said for years.
Yes. So, and I travel and people misunderstand it. So that's, part of the thing that we're going to send. And part of the thing, I'm glad you guys are out there because I was like the only guy, and Andrew, you probably heard it on that podcast that I did a while ago. How does a guy from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn end up as passionate grouse hunter as it is. Nobody can put those things together. Well, my history is a little different. I ended up leaving Brooklyn as a kid, but I have plenty of family and friends that are so passionate that live in the city that it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter. You got that escape. It doesn't matter if you get to do it every day or you get to do it once a year. The passion is always going to be the passion.
Yeah.
That's the message. If you love what you do, and you're not an expert at it. Nobody's an expert because we're all students. We're students till the day we die.
That's right.
You just want to be involved in it. You want to be absorbed. They say that 10,000 hours make you an expert. I got a lot more than 10,000 hours into this. Still not an expert. I'm just enthusiastic.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That's just the way. That's my mantra.
Real quick, we had a, you had mentioned that you said your father passed away in 2012, and we're sorry for your loss. We had a friend of ours who was a tremendous mentor to all of us. I mean, he was definitely the reason my son went into the Coast Guard, and he passed away over the summer. He was on our first podcast he was on, came out with his CPAP machine mask, looked like an elephant, and he had to get permission from, because he was still active in the Coast Guard. He had to get permission from his superiors to see if he could do that. And they're like, yeah, have fun with it. So, after hunting season, we were gonna, get into doing, more podcasts and everything. He passed away over the summer, and I didn't want to do podcasts. And Lewis kept telling me, you got to get out there. We got to do podcasts. What the fuck's the matter with you? And maybe I don't want to say embarrassed, but I didn't want to express my feelings. My brother, I love him. We talk every day. We talk 100 times a week. I didn't know how to express to him that he was hurting. I was hurting. Like the whole, my
I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
My father looked at him like another son, our whole little hunting crew, everybody, he would come to he was on my committee with the Clay Shoot for the Scouts. He would sponsor 3 kids a year to go to camp. He wanted the kids out in the woods, kids to just, if you're hiking or you're making baskets or whatever you're doing. So this March 27th, he loved upland bird hunting. That was his thing, so I kind of, I sucked it up, and I figured, instead of crying in my beer, I figured a good way to, to keep somebody's memory alive is to honor them. And we started with this whole like take a kid hunting thing with Bob. We would go down to Maryland, and Bob every year would say, bring your kids. I'm like, oh, it's expensive. It's $250 for me, $250 for this one, $250. $750 is a lot. Times 3 days. And Bob didn't care. Bob was like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I can't. You can't. You don't have it, Bob. You don't have it. You go to pay the bill, and the girl's like, she goes, you owe me $200. These were the sneaky little things that he did that we were very grateful. He would bring, he would do it with a lot of people. He would try to offset the bill so your kid could come, because the kids were the future for tomorrow for hunting. So the 27th of this month, we're doing a tower shoot. It's on a preserve. It's a tower shoot. It's a bird released hunt, but we got a bunch of young kids coming. We got, some kids we're going to cut into, hunting. We're going to film it. We're going to try to put together like a 3-minute trailer. We got some
food will be great.
Food. I'm doing a lot of wild game.
Food will be great.
Yeah. I'm doing one of my favorite dish. I came up with a snowstorm. I make a venison ravioli, and then I boil it. I let it dry. I wrap it in bacon. I put some barbecue sauce on it. I put some dry rub on it, and I smoke it until the bacon gets crunchy. So you get smoked raviolis, because we're funky like that. But we're gonna have some good food.
You're killing me with that. You just killed me.
What time was picking you up? What time was picking you up?
Todd, I don't know if you're in close proximity. It's up in Monticello, New York. You want to come? I'll be more than happy to send you out the particulars and stuff. You guys come. You want to bring a kid? There'll be plenty of food. So if you guys don't want to come,
a lot of clay shooting before and after. If you want to shoot clays,
it's gonna be a nice day.
Sporting clays course there.
Yeah. We like I said, it's just a day to remember our friend. It's a day to mentor kids and stuff like that. And we're hoping this is the first of many years to do this. That's it. One thing I had to get out. We've been talking about this on the podcast now since we started them in January. About the Bob Heinen Memorial Pheasant Classic. So, it's a good tribute to a good friend. He'll always be missed, but we figured a way to keep his honor going is to mentor, youth and anybody, a new hunter in general.
That's all beautiful. Like that. That's just beautiful.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Do we have 2 more minutes?
I'll give you a minute. Why? What do you got to say?
I just wanted to say, on another note, remembering the Moose, just for the simple fact that he was a World War II vet, and the stories he used to tell at the deer camp were unimaginable. About they would throw the hand grenades, guys would throw them back at them. He said then he would take the clip out, count to 3, and throw. I mean, amazing stories he told. He was in like Wake Island, Guadalcanal, places like that. Amazing stories. These are the kind of guys. I'm a little older than him. That when I went, he had a lot of experience with him. But I'm just saying, when I was a younger guy, these guys were World War II vets that were in their 50s telling these stories. And I was like, it was amazing. These are the guys that are around us that made us some of the people we are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are men. Don't forget, those are men. We're not created equal. Those guys, tough as nails. It doesn't matter. It's even how they died. They're tough as nails. Guys that fought through crap, that would not sit still a second if they were at your house. My father would come here. He had Parkinson's. He had cancer. He had everything. I'm doing a deck in the back. I went to work. I came back. He screwed every single thing, and every line had how many screws when you're doing a deck, and the deck is like 20 feet wide by 32 feet long.
Oh, nice big deck.
He literally put every screw in that deck by the time I got home. This is a guy who couldn't move. Those guys like that, guys I'm talking about, those guys
like that.
They were raised men. They died men. We have to work double hard to even come close to where their shins are. Okay, and people don't realize that we had the luxury of having those guys telling us.
That's right. That's right.
That the next generation doesn't, because we don't have the same stories those guys did. You listen to guys that used to hunt in Oneonta, and if you went to the grousefather.com, is a guy that used to have a store in Oneonta called Stevens Hardware. Old man Johnny Stevens. The guy was 92 years old, still going to what it's like a co-op up there. They used to release birds by a Bosie's in Milford, New York, outside of Cooperstown. We would find this guy, 80, at that point maybe he was late 80s, chasing his German short hair, following birds. And when you went into his hardware, he had guns, but he had good guns. He didn't have like shit. He had like Parkers. He had, nice side-by-sides, imports, Bernardellis, whatever it was. And I would go in there. The guy was the only guy that carried Filson, like right there. You didn't have to order. You had Filson on the rack. The creaky hardwood floors. I described it in the story I wrote about Stevens Hardware. And this was a guy that would tell you stories on how the grouse hunting was up there when he was a kid. And that was another World War II veteran. The guy was a decorated trout guy. He was a decorated war hero. That hardware store that used to manufacture wheels for wagons when he was a kid. And you hear the stuff, and you're like, how rich is that? These guys went in these like big wagon type cars, like we see, like, in old movies and whatever. And they go up to these. We got 4-wheel drive that can't climb anything. These guys went in all rear-wheel drive cars. They got everywhere with them. They hunted rabbits. They hunted birds. They would tell stories about, you couldn't shoot on Sundays because of church at that point. Everything you had.
We were in that part of New York.
Look, for us, it was Sunday, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We all sat at a table, extended family, long ass tables. Abbott and Costello playing in the background. Then I roll out
100% right
with the meatballs and whatever it was, and then another big plate of the pasta, and then who brought this and who brought that. That's when people were people. That's when family had importance.
Yeah.
Sunday dinners are dead. There's nothing like that now.
We still try. We still try. I
We
gotta
try.
say,
Yeah.
not all the time, but we still. I try to do one a
Did you
month
try
at
back
my
then?
house.
You just did it, Lou.
No, it
Oh, it was
happened
every
naturally.
Sunday. Everybody
That
went,
was
no matter
just
where you
the
moved, back to my mother's house every Sunday.
Right. Now you just said it with one word. Try. We try. Not then. Then is what you did. And not
You're
try.
right.
You did.
100% right.
So to me, that's part of the end of our civilization as it was. If you were like in Brooklyn or in a neighborhood back when it was, I use the word segregated, not a negative connotation. Segregated as you could walk down the street and you could smell somebody else's sauce, and if they were Sicilian, you could smell a little more onions in their sauce. You could go down the street or go down the hall or whatever, and somebody was cooking polenta or whatever it was. Whatever it was, you see the differences. Yeah, old guys sitting with their guinea tees on. They all had dress pants on with the slippers or whatever. They took care of themselves. They wore their hat when they left the house to go shopping. The old guys with the jackets. Yeah, who does that? You don't wear a suit no more. You don't do any of that.
No.
This is my grandfather. Like all his clothes had a hem. Like, and then look at my grandmother. He did his own too. He was a military guy too. Those are men. A definition and anatomy of man has evolved into something else. I'm not saying worse. I'm not saying better. It's just something else. The guy
It's
that you're
different.
describing, Lou, I know. I know that guy without knowing it.
I just wanted to, he was talking about Bob, and I just wanted to bring that little piece in because I kind of get a real good vibe talking to you two guys for this amount of time, and I just wanted to throw that in. I knew you would relate, and you jumped all over it. So I'm very happy I said it.
But those are the guys that made us who we are. I just don't know
I
if
agree.
we have enough to pass that on. We can have tidbits of it, but we're not them. We didn't. They lived through all kinds of adversities, whoever they were, wherever they were, whether it was the war or not, whether it was just in their town or in their neighborhood, wherever it was, what they had to go through, especially, our ancestors, my parents, whatever. I don't know what generation you guys are. My first language was Italian. My parents were only here a few years. So, for them to come here and they all made lives of themselves, then they all made lives for themselves. They worked hard. They put money away. They did whatever they needed to do. But they came to this country. They didn't know any words in English. And they still had to plug through and, you're talking day one, not knowing nothing.
Yeah.
Whoever they are, whatever they had skin that was tough. And like I said, my father was a healthy 170, 180 pound guy, 5'7", 5'8" maybe. When he died, he was 80 pounds. But the guy pulled how many months of being like that because he refused to die until he just decided to. Same thing with my uncles, all within the 3-4 year period. My father's brothers, my mother's brothers, a couple of them. But those guys were tough. Even in their death, they were tough.
Yeah. The same thing. The Moose.
We just lost two uncles within the last year or two ago, just like you're talking about also.
Uncle Joey, our uncle, same thing.
Uncle Joey, Uncle Matty, we lost both our uncles, like you said, my mother's brothers.
Tough as nails to the very end. Uncle Matty's tough as nails to the very. Moose was telling us a story. He enlisted into the Marine Corps. He went off to boot camp. From boot camp, he went overseas. That's it. Done. He went to South Pacific World War II. His mother didn't see him. Outside of an occasional letter here and there, his mother didn't see him until he came home. She didn't know if he was coming home or not.
Right.
Today, when
he left the boy, he came back a man.
He came back a man.
Didn't see him for that time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, you're a product of your environment. But if you're put in those kind of situations, you're no longer a product of your environment. You are something that is manufactured to circumstance.
Yeah.
Whatever these guys are, whether they were from Brooklyn or Wichita, Kansas, it wouldn't make a difference. You're in a foxhole together. You're in a war. You got guys that are just there to kill you.
Yep.
I mean, how do you live? How do you live with that? How do you not focus on the fact that there's somebody out there right now that wants to put a beat on my head? I would lose it. I don't think I'm tough enough for that. I wouldn't. I don't think I'm half the man my father was. I don't think I'm a quarter of the man my father was. And I consider myself a pretty good guy. But that guy, one thing I could say, and the last thing I'll say about it is men measured a man by his words. Whatever my father said, he did. There was no other way around it. There was no nothing. If he said, I'm doing it, consider it done. Don't even turn your head. Don't even do whatever. It's done. And that's kind of what I try to apply to this is if I'm telling you I'm going to invite you up or I'm telling you I'll help you or show you, 9 times out of 10, you go, especially like social media. These are some of the outlets we can do now. I'll promote anything and anybody without even them asking me to do it. But there's reciprocation is where you see the level of what people really are. It doesn't really go.
Very true.
It doesn't really even out. I have very few friends, and that are like social media, like a guy on Instagram. You guys probably know him, Uplandish Mike. Mike makes knives. Now he's upland knives and stuff like that. He was a Washington guy from Washington State, Eastern Washington. I didn't even know there was a ton of grouse there. He was a grouse hunter from Eastern Washington State, the other side of the country, which I didn't even know there was a population there. And no matter what I do, that guy on social media, no matter what I do, he'll promote me. I've always promoted him. I've done that for a ton of other guys. And they probably watching this and they know who they are. They never said, oh, this and that. Very few guys outside of my own clique. I can't talk about my own group of guys because we always promote each other.
Yeah.
But when I say promoting, I'm just saying, hey, good job on that. Your dog looks great. Or, hey, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. Nothing, it's not an eye for an eye in a business sense or whatever. Yeah. But if I'm trying to put something out there, I'm going to do whatever I can to do it. And that's part of what we all should be doing, especially with this, whether it's RGS or whether it's the Boy Scouts or whether it's this Field of Fork or whether it's the Grouse Mob or whatever it is, put things in a positive light, be supportive of the group that you're in. Social media is a huge tool, right? It's an important thing. People abuse it. People go on these tangents because they want to go opposite of what anybody says, or they want to say, oh, well, he was mean to me in his response. I always try to take the high road, but I'm crucified in the sense that when I get to a point where somebody on social media is coming at you and they keep coming at you, which it's some clown in his underwear in the basement in USA. Yeah. That had nothing else better to do. Is going to go bust my chops because he wants for 1 second to stand on that little milk crate and be the guy that's talking. Go ahead. You want to talk? You want to be the guy to talk. But watch what you say and how you say it, because I'm going to come back at you. And that's the thing with support on this whole, on social media and stuff like that. In those old timers' day, if they had something like this, all they would do is be the positive side of things. Oh yeah, if they even had the know-how to utilize it. But we're in this community where you're visible, he's visible. You gotta have the respect, and you gotta put the right message out there the right way, and do what you say. Do everything we talked about tonight. Practice your shooting. Respect the environment. Do what you can to be part of these things. Do whatever you can, but don't talk about it like a conversation.
Not do it.
I'm talking about this. Don't talk about it because Oh, you know what I did last week? I helped RGS. What did you do? Did you actually do it, or are you just saying to do it because you're on social media and saying it? That's the problem, man. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Okay.
Do what you say. And I've been guilty of some of that too in my life. We all have, in some way, shape, or form. But be the guy that the older generation was. Be that guy that when you say it, commit to it, accomplish it,
Own it.
be whatever help you
Own
can.
it. Own up to it. Yeah.
If it's not in your toolbox and you can't handle it or whatever, then just say, I can't handle it. I can't do it. I can't be part of it. Things happen to all of us. Things get in the way.
Life gets in the way of a lot of things.
Life gets in the way. You know, you talk about your son. Now he's got a lot of things going on. It could be Minnesota, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
That's a part of what is going to make you decide what you're going to do over the next short period of time. Look, you might be leaving. You might go down south. You might get out of here, whatever it is. That's what, so if you made a commitment today and now you're going to move, it's not your fault. Things happen. That's understandable. But when you commit to something, commit to it, go through it, do it, give it 200%. You'll never be wrong, and you always respect yourself. You got your dignity for doing it.
Exactly.
I agree.
Gentlemen,
I 100% agree.
we've been doing the Italian goodbye now for about 20 minutes. I want to be mindful of Mike, my producer. I love him to death, but we're going to table this discussion for another podcast. I'd love to get you guys on when we got our other two guys back. Maybe we'll do a part 2 to this in a couple of weeks. We try to do a podcast every other week. It just fits into all of our schedules, and being that I'm the only guy that I'm the youngest guy of the group that we're with, that I got to get abused and do all the research and send the emails that nobody reads the emails, but that's another story. I'll file that grievance somewhere else. But I'd like to table this, and like I said, Todd, Giuseppe, I can't thank you guys enough. You got Mr. Todd Waldron from Rough Grouse.
You guys are
Rough
great.
Grouse Association. We got Giuseppe Papadrea from the Grouse Mob, the Grouse Father himself. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on our little podcast, and we'll be in contact real soon, and maybe we'll circle back in like 2 podcasts from now. We'll get you guys back on for a part 2.
Sounds great, Andrew. Thanks, Lou. Thank
you, guys. Have a great evening.
You too.
Yeah,
Thanks
guys.
for all you
Have a
do.
good night. You guys are all gentlemen. Todd, good talking to you again, pal. It's been a while.
Have a great night.
In touch. All right, guys.
Have a good
Take
night.
care.
And I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I think of my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, well, at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend us till today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land.